Hi there. It's funny hearing Lisa say she was humbled in front of this audience. If she's humbled, I'm intimidated. So thanks very much for coming to hear me talk. I'm Kirsten Maslen from Thomson Reuters. I'm responsible for our products that we supply to law firms, academic institutions, in-house legal teams all around the world. And we're really interested in this question about where the profession's going and what skills and attributes lawyers will need, because we have to make sure that our solutions are fit for purpose going forward. So yesterday I gave a talk about some changes in the legal services market, driven largely by in-house lawyers and the clients of those in-house lawyers, as well as technological change. And I also talked a bit about the growth in the alternative legal service provider market and the impact that was having. At the end of that talk, I got to this slide, which was about what law firms are then concentrating on, and in-house legal teams, in terms of developing competencies in their existing lawyers and their new joiners. So that was about focusing on efficiency, focusing on workflow, being prepared to rethink business models, looking at the process of delivering a piece of legal work and how it can be delivered more efficiently, really harnessing the power of technology to make sure that a particular piece of legal work is delivered in the best and easiest way for the client to access. Also, there's this constant fight for differentiators. The legal services market traditionally hasn't had an awful lot of competition up to this point. It's not like other financial services, but that's changing. And so the idea of differentiating oneself from one's competitors is really key to law firm strategy. The requirement to be a business advisor, not just a legal advisor, we've been moving in that direction for quite a long time now, and the focus on developing soft skills. So in terms of skills, that means tech skills, business skills. Lawyers are becoming supply chain managers as different bits of legal work are disaggregated and sourced from different providers. They're becoming more project managers. They're engaging in business change as they look to redeliver their services in a different way, package them differently. And soft skills in this age of artificial intelligence and cognitive computing and robots. Soft skills are absolutely paramount, because what distinguishes a lawyer from a robot? It's going to be about all that personal, strategic thinking, empathy that only a person can deliver. Okay, so I know this is very reductive, but it helps my simple mind to think about the 21st century lawyer as composed of these sort of competencies. And I'm not stupid, so I'm going to leave legal knowledge, because that's obviously your area of expertise. And I'm just going to talk a bit about digital skills, business skills, and a bit about people skills. While acknowledging that obviously the legal knowledge is the most important element. Okay, so thinking about, that's what your first day trainee will be faced with when they start in a law firm or in an in-house legal department. Most of these are in law firms, some chambers too. All of that technology they'll be expected to use pretty much straight away. And a lot of it isn't joined up, so these are separate systems they're having to grapple with. Some lawyers find this really, really difficult. Existing lawyers have to be dragged into this, others embrace it. But certainly with new recruits, they're expected to be tech savvy, they're expected to be able to use this kind of technology. Jane Houston at BPP slightly stole my thunder yesterday when she referred to this. For those of you who weren't at her talk, I'll very quickly tell you what this is about. It's the legal tech audit, which was done by a US in-house lawyer who remembered when he was in practice that he used to bill a lot of his time for work that he didn't perceive to be particularly valuable. So when he became an in-house lawyer and was sending work out to law firms, he thought he'd test his law firm suppliers. He thought they'd check their tech ability. You know, how much is he paying for so-called busy work as opposed to actual proper legal work that was really of value to his company. So he set them a test. And the test was essentially things like, could they format a contract in Word? Pretty basic stuff. Could they set out a list of exhibits for trial in PDF? Could they extract data from an Excel spreadsheet? So really the kind of stuff that you would expect pretty much anyone who works in an office to be able to do. And the results were really bad. It took him 30 minutes to work his way through that task list. He set a pass rate of 1 hour, and the average pass rate was 5 hours. And some firms taking 8 to do just pretty basic routine work. As a result of this, firms can actually take this test to test their tech competency. And so it's worth thinking about. You know, these are the sorts of things that are pretty routine and that students are expected to be able to do on day one. In fact, interestingly, in 2012, the American Bar Association changed its model rules of professional conduct to include the requirement that lawyers keep abreast of changes in the law and practice, including the benefits and risks associated with relevant technology. So we don't have the same here, but we probably should. Okay, so all this tech here, most of it, you know, you are using already in courses and can be used in courses. Some's a bit harder to access. So I thought I might just really quickly give you a quick demo of an automated document assembly. That sounds very exciting, I know. Try and curb your enthusiasm. It will become clear why this is relevant. Okay, let's hope this works. Demos, my husband said demos never work during talks, so if it doesn't work, I'll abandon it. This is Practical Law, by the way, which is one of our products. I'm just going to commercial law practice area. This is the supply of goods and services. These are a load of precedents we've got. I'm going to go to that one. Okay, and then I'm going to start drafting. Okay, so most law firms use some kind of system like this. They'll automate their contracts. A lot of in-house corporates will too. This system is used by, you know, Clifford Chance, Allen & Overy, Linklaters, Simmons & Simmons, but also in-house teams at EDF, the National Grid, Cisco, Microsoft. All of these kind of companies use these kind of systems for their routine work. I just want to explain how I think, I'd be interested in your opinion, how this might be interesting for students. So the way it works is you work your way through this questionnaire. So, you know, you can fill in the parties, you can, this is a sale of goods contract, you can fill in details about you know, when goods will be delivered, when risk will pass, warranties, etc. And you fill in this questionnaire and you can then see the effect that has on the drafting. Will the warranty as to the quality of goods apply within the date of delivery? No. And it will change the drafting. Yes. And you can see it's inserted that period there. I might want to change that to 6 months, for example, and you'll see it changes the drafting here. Now, there are other systems like this in the market that firms are using. Is this de-skilling drafting for lawyers? Or is it making it more accessible? I mean, that you could take one view or the other. Could this be used as a teaching tool for contract law, for example? Let's have a negotiation. When should risk pass? I think this, my counterpart thinks this. Let's have a go at drafting this document. What do we end up with? You know, it could be used as a negotiation tool and teach basic principles of contract law at the same time. And there's an end product. There's a properly drafted agreement at the end of it. If they think, oh, I'm not sure what the key questions are here, they're highlighted for them with guidance, and then they make it select an answer, and they can see what effect does that have on the drafting. What bits are inserted? Do you want insurance provisions? Yes, no, they'll be populated. What bits do you want to insure? Product, public liability, whatever it is, those provisions get dragged in, and they can see what's relevant. So this hasn't been used in any law school yet. We haven't even thought about, well, it's certainly something that we haven't explored in detail. But you know, these kinds of systems, you've probably got them already as part of your subscription packages to ours and other suppliers' products. Have a go, see whether you could use them. Okay. Okay, that system can be used for all sorts of things. Contracts, standard letters, pleadings, claim forms, all kinds of legal documents. Some law firms run pretty much all their systems through this. So they'll have hundreds and hundreds of precedents on these sorts of programs. And they will be refining them all the time. They'll have a playbook that sits alongside them, a playbook which it relates to decisions that they want to take, how they allocate risk on each of those types of transaction, and then it will feed into the drafting. It will be updated constantly and then accessible to everybody in the firm. Okay, scampering on. So you should never rearrange your slides after several glasses of wine at ALT dinner. Okay, so in terms of business skills, I thought, what does this actually mean? Well, any work experience done well, whether that's in a law firm or whether it's in a clinic or a cafe, is going to build business skills. It's going to let the student think about what does the client want to achieve? If I were the client, would I be happy with how this works? Is there a different way of doing this? Are we doing this in the best possible way? Most organisations ask themselves those questions, but in order to answer them properly, they have to really understand the exact process that they are taking to deliver a piece of legal service. And I thought the talks yesterday on visual learning were absolutely fantastic. They really showed a different way of presenting information that was much more relatable. And I remember, back in the day when the government spent money on infrastructure before the crash, I used to work on PFI transactions, and this was the kind of thing that I would do with a client. We would draw what it was going to look like. We'd map it out and think, okay, there's a contract here, and this is where the money goes, this in this direction, and everything else. And law firms have been doing that for a long time. But what's new is breaking down that project into the specific task areas. So this is a process map for a piece of commercial litigation by an American firm. And you can see the sort of oval bits there. That's a person, that's the task, and then these bits here that sort of flow off, those are the kind of deliverables, so the documents that they're producing. Now, this is becoming increasingly common in law firms and in in-house legal teams. And if you're a client in an in-house legal team, you're demanding this sort of thing with your quote, because you want to see, well, okay, I'll pay for this bit, but I don't need to pay for that bit because I can do that in-house. So, and actually I'll get rid of that bit, but I might want to do this bit. And why have I got a senior partner on this bit? Actually, that's or I haven't got a senior partner, actually I want one because that's, for me, that's the bit that's most complex. So, gone are the days when here's a piece of legal work, oh, here's a quote, without any real breakdown of what's being delivered by whom and how much that bit is going to cost. This kind of process map is actually really helpful at skilling up new lawyers because they can see immediately what's required in a transaction, where they fit into it, what they're supposed to be doing. I remember those days in the training contract when you think, oh goodness, I feel completely at sea. I have no idea where my bit fits into this wider piece of legal work. This kind of thing is a really good way of skilling up those new joiners. And obviously, it can be done before they go to university. It can be done with law clinic type work too. And you can see that if you're a client, this is where the alternative legal service providers come in too. Which bits need to be delivered by law firms? Which bits could be delivered by another sort of provider? The more you disaggregate, the more it becomes clear where that work should sit within the kind of legal ecosystem I talked about yesterday. Okay. I'm sure this is an exercise that you do and that law schools do a lot, but we've sometimes done exercises with new joiners in law firms and with students looking at the same legal problem, so the basic law, usually something very simple like, is this a fundamental breach of contract or isn't it? And looking at it from the perspective of a lot of different clients with different drivers, different motivations, different concerns, to get people beyond the idea of, I'm going to give you an answer about what the law is, to what's the impact of that advice? What does this person need to hear? What's this person's objectives and how might they choose to respond to that? So we do these funny exercises where we've got, this is the lawyer at the top here. You could terminate your contract. Perhaps these people are all customers and they've been supplied with something defective, whether that's a service or a product. And then all these people, they think about, well, what are their drivers here? What does the in-house lawyer care most about? Are they worried about reputation? Are they worried about their share price if this dispute becomes public? Are they worried about the cost of the litigation? Perhaps they are. What about the consumer? What are they worried about? What are their drivers? What about a local authority? What about if this contract relates to care for residents in a care home and the services are defective? Their drivers are probably much more about getting a replacement in straight away, probably less worried about the cost of extracting themselves from a contract. So all these people have different drivers, but the law is simple and clear in this aspect. And these kinds of exercises, this is commercial awareness. Different people's responses to a basic piece of law, how they achieve their objectives, is commercial awareness. And it's quite nice to do this kind of exercise with students because it really sets it in context, what is meant by that commercial awareness. Okay. Building on from that previous exercise, which is what are the pain points of these different clients in their legal problem, are kind of hackathons which look at a pain point within the legal market and then design a solution to address that pain point. So we've sponsored quite a few of these, or we've run a few of them. We've looked at things like solutions to address sex trafficking. So this is resulted in an app that went on various police stations, police officers' phones that they could then, when fed into a central database. We've done hackathons on access to justice and on the blockchain and what use that could have in the legal market. But you can do really simple type hackathons. You can do process hackathons too. So rather than build anything, although that's obviously preferable if you've got 2 days and you've got some, you can bring in some people with tech expertise. But you can do mini ones as well. You can look at, okay, here are people with some serious pain points, whether it's a law firm trying to resource a big case, whether it's a consumer who's struggling to get legal advice that they need, whether it's a personal injury firm that has to triage all the calls they get and can't decide which cases to take without having to throw a load of man hours at it. There's all sorts of pain points and that students can have a go at designing solutions for, whether those are simple process type solutions or whether they are solutions that are addressed by technology. And using these kind of process maps, even simple ones, are a good way of highlighting where the inefficiency is or where the pain point is that can be addressed and improved. Okay. So yesterday I talked about legal technology. I talked a bit about artificial intelligence and how it was being used in the legal services market. Talked a bit about predictive coding and that kind of thing. I think what I wanted to say now is that how important soft skills are in the legal services market. All this tech they're just tools. They're just going to make us better lawyers, more efficient lawyers, and give us better tools to provide better risk analysis. But they won't replace that strategic thinking, that empathy, those communication skills, making people feel they've got somebody on their side, all those things that are absolutely crucial. But I think a lot of the exercises I've spoken about actually can develop those personal skills, negotiating, pitching an idea. I had a lunch with a friend at a firm who's involved in graduate recruitment last week, and she said one thing that surprised me. She said that law students might understand advocacy skills, but they don't understand that that means pitching for work, pitching an idea, pitching in for working in an email or through blog or through social media, presenting themselves, their brand, the firm's brand, themselves as experts in a field. And she said that we really struggle with that. We don't translate those skills into business development, which they're expected to do on day one. I know a lot of work is being done in that regard. I remember last year's ALT, there was a great presentation from colleagues at Northumbria about their student blog. And those kinds of things are a really great way of introducing students into that kind of business development, brand awareness, which they're going to need to do as soon as they start their firms. Okay, just a final thought. Last week we launched our Law School Resource Centre on practical law, and on this side of the screen you can see that we've got employability resources. We've got working in law, and we've got commercial awareness. Those resources are in front of the paywall, so if you want to access them you can. It's materials about the business of law, about legal tech, about all these crazy things, AI, driverless cars, who's doing what in the market, what that means for law students, Brexit, all the kinds of things that they might be asked about, interview and that kind of thing. You can find a repository of those kinds of articles and information, and also a lot of videos as well, talking about these things, legal tech, skills, commercial awareness, tips for training contract interviews, what it's like to work at the bar, what it's like to work in-house. And we're adding to it all the time, so do send us ideas. Like I say, it's in front of the paywall, so you can just have a look and direct your students to it if you think they're interested. So yeah, that's it from me. I hope that was interesting, bit of a scamper through. You got any questions? Any questions? You're desperate for lunch. No? Thanks very much for listening. Oh, good.
Yeah, I think it's probably one question because it was also really interesting.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
I was interested in your resources, and as you were saying, the commercial awareness. I mean, to just see it visually like that, it's helped me. It can certainly help the students.
Oh, great.
I'd see you later.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Hi Kirsten.
Hi
Thanks very much for
there.
that. That was great. I really like that kind of map that you had of all of the pieces of software and all the things that, technology that trainees would get in touch with when they first start their training project. That was really good. Would like to be in
Can
touch at
I'll
some
give you
point.
my card
Yeah.
because, oh
If you
goodness.
would be interested in taking part, then
Yeah, that
I'd
would be
really grateful.
great.